Welcome to Detroit's Darkest Times. Today we're going to discuss Jimmy Hoffa. We got an update on the Jimmy Hoffa situation. And the story begins 7:30 1975. Jimmy Hoffa was at home, had some pictures took. Later that evening, he had a meeting to attend at the Red Fox. While he was waiting for the guys to come and pick him up, they didn't show on time. So he calls his wife and tells her he's going to stop at the store, pick up some steaks, and he should be home about 8, 9 o'clock, and he's planning on cooking some steaks. After he gets off the phone with her, the guys show up. So he gets in the car with them. They drive straight to the Renaissance Center. And at this time, they're discussing things that he's wanting to accomplish. So they go to the Renaissance Center during construction. And this is, at this time, there's 5 buildings, 4 39-story towers, and 1 73-story hotel tower. The first tower opened up July the 1st of 1976. And this is a fact check on the man talking to Michael Yarborough. There's 8 guys on the scene. Last time we told y'all there were 7 guys on the scene. But this extra guy comes in because Michael Yarborough, he says he goes to the Renaissance Center to see about getting a job. He goes in the building. He asks the security guard, "Where's the Queen America staffing service?" He told him to go down the escalator and make a right. Well, he goes down the escalator and he makes a left. He gets twisted up. So he walks down the hall to a door where this door says, "No one beyond this point without steel-toed shoes, hard hat, and safety glasses." But when he reads the sign, he hears somebody yelling. And it's a dude yelling for help. So then he thinks, well, I need to go in there and see, because it's probably a construction worker got hurt and maybe he can help him. So he goes to the door, he walks down the ramp, and then he looks up and he sees two men and another man, and the one in the middle was short, and they seem to be dragging him, but he's yelling for help. So at this time he sees this, he sees a cement truck, he sees a 1975 Mercury, maroon in color, with the trunk open. Then he sees that the concrete truck's spinning slowly. They toss him in the hole. And then the concrete truck starts speeding up. It's spinning a lot faster. And the concrete just pours in the hole where they threw Jimmy Hoffa at. But at this point, he don't know it's Jimmy Hoffa. He don't find this out until the very next day. But once he goes home, he tells his... well, let me back up a little bit. Then a guy approaches him, dressed in a suit, and he opens his jacket, shows him his gun, and he said, if you don't get out of here, you're going to be next. And then he pulls his sunglasses off, gives him a mean look, and then he said, Michael Yarborough says, you don't have to worry about me, I'm out of here. So he takes off, and he says as he got about 10 or 15 feet away, he looks to the side, and the man's coming at him. So he takes off running. When he takes off running, he gets away from the guy, and he goes and hides in the restroom. And he actually stands on the toilet with the door closed. And he's being real quiet, but he's real scared at this point. At this time, he's 18 years old, just at the Renaissance Center trying to apply for a job. Anyways, he sees the man's black shoes from underneath the stall door, but the man don't open the door. He just walks in there, and I guess he don't hear nothing, so he just turns around and leaves. So Michael waits for about 5 or 10 minutes before he comes out, and he looks out the door. He don't see nobody, so he goes down the hall to another door. And then when he opens that door, it's right there where the cement truck is, and where the maroon car was. But the maroon car is gone at this point. So then he gets scared, and he runs into the other building, and he tries to go out a door. And when he goes out, he sees the maroon Mercury going slowly around the 400 tower of the Renaissance Center. So he gets scared, he runs back in the building, he goes to another restroom, and he does the same thing. He gets up on the commode and he just sits there because he don't know if them guys are looking for him or what. At this time, he's pretty shook up. And so he waits about 10 minutes, and then he goes and exits the building. And then he has trouble finding where his car is, but he finds it. He gets in his car. He goes back home. When he gets home, he tells his sister, his brother, and his brother's wife. He's like, y'all ain't gonna believe what I seen downtown. And they said, what? And he said, I just seen a man lose his life and get buried at the Renaissance Center. So he said that evening they was talking about it, and they went to bed that night, and the next day on the news, 2, 4, and 7 was talking about there's a former Teamster member, a former Teamster president that's missing, and they showing his picture. And then Michael tells his family, he's like, that's the dude I seen them throw in a hole, and they covered him up with concrete. And then his family told him, hey, you don't need to say nothing about that because that's the mob, and they're liable to kill you and our whole family. So Michael said, all right, I ain't gonna say nothing. But then he waited 27 years later, and then he decides he's going to the feds Detroit and tell them his story. Well, when he tells them the story, he goes back home, and then he said, years pass and he never seen nothing getting done about it. So just recently, he came out on a TV station live and reported his story. And then he's hoping to get something done about it. But the way this took place, when they picked up Jimmy Hoffa, they picked him up. They took him to the Renaissance Center. The story that's circulating is they broke both of his arms, both of his legs. That way he couldn't walk, and he couldn't climb, and he couldn't do anything when they threw him in the hole. All he could pretty much do is just yell help until the cement covered him up, and that was it. And these guys had all this planned out all along. They had it planned to do this. It wasn't like they just was planning it as they went. So at this time, Michael Yarborough says that when he sees them dragging them to the hole, it looks like a real short guy and 2 tall guys. But what it was is they was pretty much dragging him because he couldn't walk and he couldn't use his arms. So all he could do was yell for help. So, he said they threw him in the hole and covered him up with concrete. And I'm sure he thinks about that today, because when you see something drastic, especially myself being from Detroit, Michigan, when you see some drastic stuff, which I've seen a whole lot of it, and I'll talk about it on this channel as time goes, but it stays with you for the rest of your life, especially if it's real drastic. But that being said, whoever's listening to this, I would like you to share with other people this video. I would like you to subscribe, hit the like on every video. and then hit the notification bell, and that'll let you know each time I post a new audio or video. So after he did that interview, now we're going to do some fact checking here, because my calculation was there's 3 dudes in the Mercury, the 1975 Mercury, maroon in color, plus Jimmy Hoffa. That's 4 dudes. When they get to the Renaissance Center, there's 3 other dudes there. One dude's operating the jackhammer, and the reason he's doing that to ground out any noise. One dude controlling the cement truck, and then the other dude is the dude that's talking to Michael Yarborough. So I wanted to correct that, because on the last video, we left that dude out, whoever he was, you know what I mean? So there's actually 8 people on the scene. It's 4 in the car, the truck driver 5, the jackhammer guy 6, Michael Yarborough 7, the guy that was threatening Michael Yarborough is number 8. So we just wanted to correct that, because we didn't want to just leave that undone. And we're touching base back on this story because there's just more information that we got to share. Okay. During this time, 1975, there's 5 buildings. And the 4 39-story towers and the 73-story hotel tower. This first tower opened on July 1st of 1976. It's just a fact check on the man talking to Michael Yarborough. Makes it 8 guys on the scene. So we did want to correct that. Did Michael Yarborough get any traction on checking on Jimmy Hoffa? Feds say they investigated around, not in the Renaissance Center, but around the Renaissance Center, and said no remains was found. So there's no proof of this. This is just what's circulating, that they said they checked around the Renaissance Center. And a lot of people's using humor for that, because, you know, if they was checking, it doesn't matter where they was checking at. Anywhere they check, the public would know about it, because it would be all over the news, all over social media, and it wasn't. So that's just something that's out there, you know. So there's no truth to it, to be honest with you. But the humor that people are saying if they look and search around the Renaissance Center, that means if you're searching around something, that's the outside of the Renaissance Center. So it doesn't matter if they were searching, wherever they were searching, people would know about it, and it's just not a known fact. So I don't know who got that started about saying the feds investigated around the Renaissance Center and said no remains was found. But people were saying if they did that without telling anybody, because this is a big issue here and a big event, and it would be all over the news or all over social media. But people are just making humor about it, which is not true. But people's making humor and said, okay, they found cigarette butts on the ground. They found some empty water bottles on the ground, and they found some trash on the ground. And that's just people's humor. That's what they're saying, because there's no evidence of them actually searching for Jimmy Hoffa, nowhere near around the Renaissance. But I just wanted to put that out there because, the people, that's what, people have their own opinions. It's freedom of speech. People just have things to say when they know that something's out there and they know it's not true. But the construction began in 1973 of the Renaissance Center. And this is just fact check. There's no evidence that the feds ever looked into the driver's theory, and that's Jimmy Hoffa's ex-driver. Michael Yarborough story, or anyone else's for that matter. We know the feds have the upper hand sometimes. But on this one, we will have to call a spade a spade. Until you all look into this, people will know when it takes place, because it will be on the news and social media. So let's do the right thing. And I laughed when I heard about the humor of the people saying, they found cigarette butts, some empty water bottles, and a little trash. That's just people's humor that they put on there. Let Michael Yarborough guide you guys and make sure he's at the right spot. Shout out to Michael Yarborough. Shout out to the feds, because they're going to do the right thing. Also remember, the Renaissance Center security wore suits too. So when Michael Yarborough, describes everything he's seen, not saying that the Renaissance Center security was involved. It's just a known fact that they wore suits too. So when he's talking about guys with suits, stuff like that, that's just a known fact that that's the way they dress. So that being said, hopefully Michael Yarborough will get some traction and be able to, assist in any way, shape, or form. Or, I think they even said he would like to use a concrete scanner over there, but he's going to, for him to get permission like that, he's going to have some authorities with him to to do something like that. And it's been so many years, I hope he really knows exactly the spot. Because, when it's during construction and stuff, you got to remember, when they told him, when he asked where the Queen America's at, the staffing agency, they told him to go down the escalator and make a right. But he didn't make a right, he made a left. So what I'm saying, why I'm bringing that up, is because if they happen to take him down there, they need to really make sure that that's exactly where he's saying it was. And, because some people is just made to get twisted up. You know what I'm talking about? Like, somebody gives them directions, they might get twisted up, and it's just their nature. That's just what some people do. And then some people you can give directions to, and they're right on top of it. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying he'll get mixed up. I'm just saying that I do know that he turned the wrong way when they told him to make a right. He made a left at the end of the escalator. But that could have been just a simple mistake, But if they happen to take him down here, and if they happen to look into this, which I really wish they will for all parties involved, but they need to take him down there too so he can actually direct them to the correct spot, and maybe they can put an end to all that's been going on, with all the stories and everything like that. So hopefully, he can get with the right people and get them to the right exact spot, and they actually can try to find out what the situation is. But my thought on it is, years back, the Canadian driver, which used to be Jimmy Hoffa's driver, he plainly said that Jimmy Hoffa is at the Renaissance Center. And how he knew this is a mobster of Detroit City was with him and some other guys, and they left the Ami Hotel to go across to the Renaissance Center to eat breakfast. And when they crossed over, Tony Giacalone told them, "Say good morning to Jimmy Hoffa, boys." So at that point, he knew where Jimmy Hoffa was at. And from day one, Tony Giacalone knew all along where he was at. But I didn't check into the Canadian driver from the point Tony Giacalone told him and others, "Say good morning to Jimmy Hoffa, boys." I didn't check into what date that was, versus the date he got on live and explained that Jimmy Hoffa was at the Renaissance Center. My guess on it, I could look into it, or you can look into it, but my guess on it has been years past when he finally came out and said so. You know what I mean? But my thought is the feds knew, a long time ago when his driver mentioned he was at the Renaissance Center. So that being said, I don't recall no evidence or anything like that showing that they went down there to try to, see if his story held water or not, because there's plenty of water down at the Detroit River. But anyways, and there's other stories that people have said Jimmy Hoffa's around the whole lot of water and stuff like that, which would make sense because if he's at the Renaissance Center, the Detroit River's right there by it. Yeah. So whoever told that person just was trying to give him a clue, but didn't really give him specific. So basically the driver said where he was at. Then later on down the road, Michael Yarborough come out, and he's an eyewitness to the whole situation. So my thought is when he came out and he's an eyewitness, because you got to remember, the Canadian driver wasn't an eyewitness. He just heard, but from a good source, So he heard, which is 100% true in my book. You know what I mean? Because I just know how it works in Detroit City. Anyways, years later, the Canadian driver came out and told his story. I don't know what the time distance was between Tony Giacalone telling him and the time that he came out publicly about it. But anybody can look it up, I'm sure, and find out what it is. But so, and then you got Michael Yarborough, that's the eyewitness. Soon as he went to the feds, I would say that they should have got right on it right away because he's an eyewitness, But I don't know, what's going on because over the years, now that we all know that, you see on the news a lot about the old director of the FBI and stuff is in a bunch of crap and stuff. Whether it's true or not, nobody really knows. But you just hear all this stuff on the news, and then you hear the Jimmy Hoffa story, and you can almost say, well, maybe there's a lot of corruption in government. You know what I mean? Because it just makes all the sense in the world if you got an eyewitness that said he seen Jimmy Hoffa get killed and buried with concrete, that you don't get on it and see what's going on. So I don't know if his family's even aware of this stuff or not, but maybe if enough people see it and talk about it and stuff like that, maybe things will get done, but because on something like that, you just really want this to be took care of, you know what I mean? It's part of history, and all parties involved are important people, whoever, no matter who it is, everybody's important. You know. So, that being said, it's just a hellacious story, and maybe things that get done, you know. So, in this story also, it really made the Red Fox restaurant on Telegraph Road. At the time in question, it really made this place famous. Even though it was a good restaurant, but it still made it famous because Jimmy Hoffa was involved in his disappearance involved in at the Red Fox restaurant. And I don't know if they still have this 1975 Mercury, if the feds still have it, but they did keep it for a period of time. I don't know if they kept it, or if they turned it back in. I don't know, but I'd say if they kept it, they should just go ahead and put it in the museum that they have in Michigan, and because it's just got a big story behind it. But maybe they just can't do anything with it until the story comes to an end. But you just never know where this will lead. But the thing is, best thing to do is, I'd say all parties involved, counting Detroit's darkest times, if they just stay on it, and keep updating things, But please, if anybody's doing stories on Jimmy Hoffa, please make sure it's the truth, or the truth far as or whatever. Don't just get out there just, making up stories and stuff like that, because that ain't no way to be. But that being said, we're going to leave it right there. So, like I said, those of you that's watching this, subscribe, hit the like, and the notification bell. Support the channel. If you want to really support the channel, you can donate to the Cash App. There's $ FC313. The PayPal is DDT313. Support Detroit. Support Detroit's darkest times. We shout out to all the people that watch us. We appreciate you. And just interesting stories all the time. No fairy tales. So stay with us. Make sure you hit the notification bell, and then you'll be alerted to every time there's a video or audio posted. That being said, we appreciate everybody, and we're out.